The next topic we're going to take a look at is the command prompt. And you might be thinking to yourself, why should I care about command prompt in this day and age? I thought that went out the window with DOS. Well, Microsoft has started bringing back or emphasizing the command prompt, more so in server operating systems than client. But it is important that you understand some of the prompts, or some of the rather commands that you can use on your machine. So terms are used interchangeably. For those of us that are old enough to remember DOS, this is a DOS window. For people who aren't old enough to remember DOS, well, it's command prompt. So you'll hear people using the terminology interchangeably. So they are all text-based commands, and we'll show you a demo of that in just a couple minutes here. Text input, okay, so you're renaming a folder in that particular case, and also has text output. So the bottom line is it's all text-based. So just some of the commands that you can use, and you'll notice a lot of these, we'll go through some of these later on, but any command, the main thing I want you to get out of this screen is if you don't know what a particular command does, all you do is type the command space /?. That's the help command, and it will give you a help dialog for that particular command. There are a series of networking command line tools that you can use. ipconfig, which allows you to get information about your TCP IP address, default gateway, routers, things like that. The ping command, which is used to send out basically a handshake to another system and say, hey, are you there? And they either respond back or not. The mbtstat command, which is used to display your TCP/IP information and other information regarding a remote computer. The net command, which is used to manage Microsoft network resources from a command line. One of the biggest things you use that for is for creating a share to a particular folder. The netstat command, used to show the status of each active network connection. Netstat will display statistics for both TCP and UDP connections. The NSLOOKUP command is used to verify that a computer can connect to a domain name system, or domain name server rather, which is DNS, and find an IP address for a given computer name. And then the trace route command, which is used to determine and test all points along the route the computer uses to send a packet to a destination. There is also a recovery console. If you have to wind up making changes or repairs, the recovery console is for XP. It comes directly at the beginning when you go into setup. And you'll notice that one of the options on here is to repair a Windows XP installation using recovery console, press R. Okay? So you do that and it'll take you into the recovery console. The similar program or screen for Win 7, or I should say Windows Vista and Windows 7, is something called WinRE, or Windows Recovery. The Windows WinRE command or WinRE program, the first thing you want to do is create a system restore point. So you open up Control Panel and go to the recovery option, and then click on Open System Restore, and one of the options there will allow you to create a system restore point. Then when you restart the computer, you can, when the text first appears for when you're booting into the machine, if you hit F8, it'll bring up a menu for you, and one of the options is to go ahead and start the Windows recovery environment. Okay, let's take a look at some of these command line utilities in action. In order to get to a command prompt, or the easiest way to get to a command prompt, is simply to go down to the Windows button in the left-hand corner, and where it says Search Programs and Files, just type CMD, and you'll notice that it brings up the command prompt. Now, one thing you want to make sure or would want to check first before you do this is to make sure that if any of the commands you're going to enter need administrative privileges, you would either have to log on as an administrator or tell the command prompt to run with administrative privileges. Here, we know that we're an administrator, so we can just go ahead and highlight that command and hit enter. Now, you'll notice that by default, when you open up a command line window, the directory automatically defaults to the user directory of whoever is logged on. And that's, by design. If I would have ran this as it told it to specifically run as an administrator, then it would pop up to the C Windows System 32 directory. But regardless of that, if we took a look at some of these commands now, again, as I said before, if you want to know what a particular command does, you can type in the name of the command followed by a space, / and a question mark. So, for instance, that's not good. Here's a good one that gets used a lot is disk part. Okay. Now, disk part is basically, for those of you that are familiar with the older version of fdisk, it basically does the same thing, allows you to create partitions on a machine, format partitions on a particular machine, and basically getting the machine ready to either accept another operating system or erase particular information on the machine. And there's lots of different commands here. Okay. The shutdown command. And you'll notice when I put in the /? It gives me a lot of information. And so we can, if we put in a /I, it would display graphic interface. If we did /S, it would shut down the computer. /R shuts down and restarts. And then you can put, with those shutdown and restarts, you can also use the /T followed by a number to indicate the number of seconds that you want until the machine reboots. The default is 30 seconds, and it will give a message to the person that, hey, your machine is going to be shutting down in X amount of time. If we want to take a look at some of the networking command line tools, first one I mentioned was ipconfig. So if I just type in ipconfig, it gives me basic information for each one of the adapters that I have on my machine. Now, for this particular machine, we just want to pay attention to the Ethernet adapter. And you'll notice that it gives a link level IPv6 address. It gives you your IPv4 address, your subnet mask, and your default gateway. Now, if you want more detailed information than that, I can just simply do a /all afterwards. And you'll notice that the /all gives us a little bit more information. It gives us the physical address or MAC address. It gives you the subnet mask, the least obtained, when it obtained its DHCP address, when it's going to release it, what the DHCP server is, what the DNS server is, whether NetBIOS over TCP/IP is enabled. So let's say that I'm having some connection problems and I want to see if a particular computer is going to respond to me. Now, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to use Google. So if I type in ping www.google.com, okay, you'll notice I get a request timed out. That could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because the connection is actually down, or it could be because Google has got their firewall set up to block ping requests, which is quite common. If I type in the net command, okay, you'll see that oh, I got the wrong syntax. I apologize. Net. If I do a net use, okay, that will allow us to set up a share or a connection to a remote folder. And if I do an NS lookup, okay, notice that it brings back my default server by name and by address. Okay. So it found the DNS server for this particular machine. Okay.